Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to be here, and especially in such a distinguished company. I'm going to be quite brief, partly because I know I'm not the person anyone here came to see, and also I'm always mindful of my dear departed grandmother, who used to say there should be a beatitude for meetings. Blessed are the brief, for they shall be invited again. My primary purpose here today, I just want to share with you an idea, a brief version of an idea, and tell you about a website where you can get more information about it. The Vernon K. Kriebel Foundation is a nonprofit educational think tank. We do not advocate parties or elections or candidates or legislation, but we talk about ideas, and when we've been talking about an idea that's a very simple and practical solution on the illegal immigration debate for a number of years. With anybody that'll listen, we've done lectures and meetings like this with both parties. We've done meetings with everybody from the Heritage Foundation to LULAC and everyone in between. Our principal, Helen Kriebel, in fact, Senator Allen met with her some 3 years ago, I think, to talk about this. There's been all kinds of interest in it. And the details of it are fleshed out in a website called tempsinUSA.com that I would really encourage all of you to look at. The idea is really simple. It begins with separating the discussion of citizenship and permanent residence from the discussion about temporary guest workers who are coming into the country today. Because they really are different matters altogether. If somebody's coming to become an American citizen, that means something different to us. If somebody wants to be a citizen, we require that means they understand what a citizen is. They have to know what an American is. They have to understand the idea of it. And so we expect them to understand the culture and the history and the language and so on. Assimilation issues that we all care about, but that don't really apply, though, to somebody just coming for the season to pick tomatoes in the Imperial Valley. So it is a different discussion, and we begin by separating those. And then understanding that border security requires some kind of a solution to the guest worker dilemma. You can't believe how many people we meet with all over Washington who will say to us, all those people ought to just get in line like everybody else, without having the slightest clue that there's no line for them to get in. And so we talk about how to create that in a very realistic and practical way. And it begins with the concept of outsourcing that's very simple. You let private employment agencies who spend their livelihoods putting employers and employees together, it's what they're good at, let them open offices anywhere in the world, and to empower them to issue non-immigrant worker permits. Very simple kind of smart cards like this with the computer chips on. You know, a card like this in the modern world not only can have somebody's photograph and fingerprints and who they are and where they live and who they work for and when it expires. They can have whatever information the government wants on them. Also, it can be issued in 24 hours, including a criminal background check and all the things that we may require of guest workers. This is fairly simple to do in the private sector. It's not very simple to do in the government bureaucracy. Here's the way. In fact, think of it this way. Background checks just are an example. We do this every day in the private sector all over the United States. Think about the Brady Bill. We walk into here's the analogy. If you were to walk into a gun shop and say, I want to buy that, and they say, okay, fill out this paperwork so we can run the background check that's required by law, and then we'll let you know in a year and a half whether you pass it. That's kind of the way that some of the consulates work, that some of these guest workers have to go through to get into this country to work. And when you think about the idea that these visas can only be applied for under the current system by employers, not by employees, so if you're a person in El Salvador or Mexico or Brazil or anywhere else in the world and you want to work in the United States, there's no place you can go to find out what the jobs are and where you might be able to go. You have to hope that you will run across a recruiter or a coyote who will smuggle you across the border or whatever. It's a system that just plain doesn't work. And all the illegals in this country know it doesn't work. And we've got to fix it in some kind of a practical way that will work for them, or it won't work at all. And so that's the idea. You let employment agencies open the offices. You let employers post jobs with employment agencies. They pay for it with fees, not with tax money. And so that potential workers have a place they can go and find out what jobs might be available. The employment agency will match specific workers to specific jobs, run the background checks in a matter of minutes like works in the real private world, issue the smart card, and they can come and go at will. They're no longer captured by our system in a way that prevents them from going home, so now they have to try and get their families here. All the rest, there's a whole bunch of issues just sort of go away if you have a practical solution to this. And so the reason that that kind of an idea can work is because it's based on incentives. It's based on what actually works for people rather than government trying to figure out how to make people do something they don't want to do. People aren't illegal because they want to be. They're illegal because we haven't given them a way to be legal. So the beauty of that approach is that 85 to 90% of all the people coming illegally across the border are just coming here to try and find work. They want to make money that they can't make at home so they can capitalize a better life for themselves and their family at home. That's their intention. But you know how many people come across the border thinking they're coming to be temporary guest workers, and our system turns them into immigrants, and it wasn't their intention. This way, we can get away from that because we fixed the two main problems, the two disincentives that stop these people from going through a process to get legal. One is a bureaucracy that they know doesn't work. They've been there, they've tried it, if it worked for them, they wouldn't be here illegally. So you take that out of the equation, and the other is the artificial quota, the artificial limit that we put on their numbers. Let the free market determine that. That's not an unlimited number. It's a number limited by the market. So if there are no jobs, then there are no non-immigrant worker permits issued. If there are a million, then there are a million. Whatever the market would bear is the way the free market ought to work, and that's the way this idea works. So that gives you border security because it solves 85, 90% of that problem, and it supplies the labor force that our economy is so dependent on. So if you're interested in more information about that, I would encourage you to take a look at that website. TempsinUSA.com has lots of good polling data on it. By the way, you'll find, some of you will instinctively know this already, you'll find that while an overwhelming majority of Americans will tell any pollster that they want the borders controlled in this country, absolutely, and the number is overwhelming, they also will tell you by numbers of almost 80% that they don't think it's possible to do that without some kind of solution to the guest worker problem. So take a look and you'll find all kinds of good information there, and again, thanks for providing the floor.